Hi everybody. In this demo I'm going to go over on how to draw a fashion flat. Okay, this croquis right here I'm going to use as a guide to draw the clothing around, and this is actually a great um, croquis to use. It's from the spec manual, and I really like using it a lot. So the first thing I'm going to do is just lock this in place. I'm going to go to Object, go to Lock, Selection, and then that keeps it from moving around when you're drawing on. Okay, so we'll go to here and take our pen tool, and I'm just going to close up on this a little bit more because it'll make it easier to draw. First thing I want to talk about is the stroke. All right, so let's get rid of our fill down here. So my fill is selected. I can get rid of that. I'm just going to bring my stroke to front because I'll probably be changing that. And I'm going to give it to start off with a weight of 1. If you see right here, I'm going to create a corner, and I'll actually just make that corner big so you can see what it looks like. All right. So you see right there, I have a corner, and it's a very sharp corner. We typically don't see corners like that in clothing. So I'm going to go over here to my stroke, and I'm going to click on this part, which blunts the edges of my stroke, but also this one here that blunts the corners. So you can see how it's blunted. Okay, so if I undo that, I can show you a side-by-side example. So there's, whoops. All right, so this one I'll blunt. Okay, so you can see the difference between the two, where this one's very sharp and this one's has a softer curve to it. Okay, so these two I like to select when drawing clothing. Again, I'm going to go to 1. All right, so let's start by drawing a pair of pants. The first thing you want to do is draw the whole outside of your garment. And I know there's a lot of different ways to draw flats. This is just one way. All right, this is what I prefer. I like to draw the whole outline of the garment, the whole silhouette of it, and then I go and I put the details in. We're just going to do a simple pair of pants. Again, getting good at drawing flats or drawing flats well takes practice, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So anyways, here we go. I'm just going to draw one side of the flat as well, because unless it's asymmetrical, both sides are going to be the same. Okay, I'm drawing a symmetrical pair of pants, and so both sides of this will be exactly the same. So there's no reason to draw two sides at once. Just draw one, and we'll flip it and attach it, okay, which you'll see. All right, so I'm going to start at the waist, and I'm going to come up here and draw my waistband. Okay, every time you make a line, click on the last point you did, and that gets rid of one of those hangers. If you think this is too close right here, there's ways to manipulate the lines as you go. I'll go ahead and manipulate, when I'm drawing flats, I'll manipulate the lines that I'm drawing as I draw them, and then even after I draw them. So for example, if you think about when you're wearing clothes, your clothes, yes, they're touching your skin, but they're not, it's not like they're painted on your body. Okay, this is very close. So I want to come out just a ways from here. So right now, this end, the last point I drew is selected. So I can use my arrow keys, and I can just press my right arrow key right now and see how it moves it out. I can do the same, like I can move it up with up, down with down, and then back and with left. Okay, so I just want to add a little ease in there, and that looks a little better. We'll make these kind of skinny jeans. So I'm just going to follow the curve of the body here because they are fitted. Use my arrow key and bring that in just a little bit. So again, now I don't love how some of these lines are turning out. It's a little bumpy, but I'm going to show you how to fix that. We'll go back and fix those things just a little bit. All right. And I'll come down here. I always like to add a little bit of curve to my lines. Illustrator makes the lines very straight, which it should. That's the way we want it to create. But when it gets those straight lines, I'm just going to go in a little bit there. It doesn't look very clothing-like typically, so I like to just add a little curve. Even to most of my straight lines, I'll add a little curve into. All right, and we're to the top. Oop. Okay, now I'm just going to hit enter, and that stops it from the line continuing. So if I put a point down, notice it did not connect the line. I'll delete that. All right, and I'm going to go back and fix up what I just drew. So one thing you can do is come over here, and the black arrow, that's your selection tool, and then the white arrow is your direct selection tool, okay? So meaning when I come here and I select the line, I select everything I just drew, okay? If I take my direct selection tool, what it does, it just selects segments, all right, of what I drew instead of the whole thing. I mean, it looks like that everything's selected, and it is, but if I can go and just manipulate the selection, okay? So notice right here when I select this, I can see these little white boxes, okay, right here. These are all the points I laid down with my pen tool, okay? So one thing I can do is select one of those points, and that handlebar comes back up. I can take that handlebar with my direct selection tool, and I can change the curve of my lines, okay? I can bring it in or out, like so. Okay, so if there's, that's one way I can manipulate this line. All right, so this one I kind of bring up a little bit like that. This one, change like this. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another thing we can do is if we select again, so we'll select our whole line, come over here and we have our pencil tool. Okay. Notice there's a little arrow, white arrow or white triangle in the bottom right hand corner of this pencil box. If I hold down that box, up pops these other options, and I have a smooth tool. I'm going to select that. Now, with my line notice my line is highlighted. I used my my selection tool and select the line. Now I can come here, and if I hold down my mouse button, my left mouse button, and smooth over this, it kind of changes. Notice how that line went in and smooths it out. So you can come through all these kind of areas. You don't even have to be touching the line necessarily, just go in the direction you want. And it really just smooths out these lines and makes them much nicer and more real. So I'm just smoothing that out. I'm going through these sections that are just kind of a little too straight or too boxy, and just kind of smoothing out. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now that looks a lot better. Okay, compared to what it looked like. So, I'll go back to my arrow. So now I've created half of the silhouette of this skinny jean that I'm creating. Let's put in the rest of the details before we copy it to make the left side here. One thing I'm going to do, because we're eventually going to connect when we create other side, we're going to connect them at these points. Notice these points are kind of going over my center front line. I'm going to use my direct selection tool. I'm going to select the point at the very end of that line, like so. I'm just going to use my right arrow key and tap it back, like once or twice. I'll do once, I think that'll work. Same thing down here at the crotch. I'm going to tap that back once, just for now, okay? Because eventually we're going to connect this to the other side, all right? And so we don't want them overlapping when we connect. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to smooth this out a little bit more. And another thing, sometimes you may not like a point or not think a point is necessary. You can come in here into your pen tool. You have add a point or delete an anchor point. You can take your -1 and go right on that point and delete it. Okay? and then it's out of there, and it can kind of change the shape. So I'm just, there we go. That looks a little better. All right, so one thing I want to do is add in a waistband here. All right, so with my direct selection tool, I'm going to select this top waistline that I drew. Okay, so if I just click on that and copy it by hitting Command C, and then I'm going to hit Command F, which pasted that same exact line right on top, and that's what selected the one. And now I'm going to hit my down arrow tool, or keys, and notice that line comes right down. So that gives me this exact same line that I can now, because I want that exact same shape and curve that was here to create the seam of my waistband. Let's make it a little wider. There we go. Now I deselected that. I'm going to grab right here on this end, and I can do two things. I can just pull it over with my direct selection tool. I'm going to hit Command Z and undo that. I don't want to do that. I'm going to just actually click that point right there and hit my arrow tool and use my left arrow key to move it right where I want it. There we go. Okay, I now have a waistband. This is going to be a seam. I don't want, so when this is done, I'm going to make my silhouette line, this one's going around, wider. Okay, I don't want it just to be 1 inch. I usually typically do 2 or 3 points. Sorry, not 1 inch, but 1 point. I usually do 2 or 3 points for my outside line. So, but I do want my seams to be smaller, so I'm selecting that waistband seam. I'm going to go over to the width of my stroke, and I'm going to put it at, I think, 0.5. Okay. Now, I'm going to draw in my pocket. So let's take our pen tool again, and we can just drop it. I'm going to do a set in pocket, so just like I'm going to put 1 point down here, and then 1 here, and just kind of draw, manipulate the curve that I want. There we go, select that point, hit enter. I now have a pocket. One other thing I'm going to do here now is draw in some stitching lines. Okay, so usually on a jean pocket you'd have some top stitching here. So I'm going to use my selection tool. All right, now I'm not using my direct selection tool because this isn't part of a larger object. It's just this one line, so I could just use my direct selection tool, or sorry, selection tool. I've selected it. I'm going to hit Command C to copy it, Command F to paste it right on top, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys and kind of move that out a little bit. All right, this is going to become my stitch line. Now I need to manipulate this a little, so I'm going to use my direct selection tool, grab this point of it, pull it in there. I might change, just try to make the curve a little different. Maybe I'll pull this in a little tighter right there. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, now I want to make this a stitching line. So I'm going to go over here and see this one says dash line. I'm going to click that. Okay, so now it's making the dashes 12 points long. All right, I do not want that. I'm going to make this much smaller. Let's try 1.5 and see how that looks. All right, and then the gap actually doesn't look too bad, but let me just see if I do this one. I like that better. Okay, so now that looks like stitches. I'm actually going to make the this stroke even thinner. Okay, I'm going to go as thin as I can. So right now it's the same size as a seam line, which is 0.5. I'm going to go down from half to quarter. There we go. All right. Now that even changes a little bit. Maybe I can change this even more. What if I did this gap 0.5? Let's see what that looks like. All right. I like that. And this is one of the things, is always just experimenting and trying things. Let me try this 0.5 and see how that looks. Whoops. Way too big. Let's try that again. 0.5, enter. Okay. I think I like that even more. All right. Some people might think that's too small. Some people might like it. That's fine. Okay. Now let's also make a stitching line, or top stitching here at the waistband. So again, I'm going to select this line. Again, it's not attached to the larger silhouette, so I can use my selection tool. I'm going to copy it, Command C, paste it right on top, Command F, and then hit my arrow key up. All right, moving it up once. Now, since it's selected and I already have a stitching line that I like, while it's selected, I'll just choose my eyedropper tool, which is right here. Okay, you can also hit I on your keyboard, which would also just change it. Okay, and it's still selected. You can see it's blue. I'm going to go right here to my stitching line and click it, and there you go. It just changes it to exactly what it is. All right, so let's go down to the hem of the jean, and I'm going to use my direct selection tool. Typically on jeans, they roll them twice to the inside and then do a top stitching to hem them up. So I'm just going to select this bottom line here with my direct selection tool. Command C, Command F. Use my arrow key, move up once, twice. I think that looks good. While it's selected, I'll take my eyedropping tool, come up here, select my stitching line, and there it is. Okay, so now let's make the other side of our jean. So I'm going to come out here a little bit. With my selection tool, I'm going to copy. So I'm going to select all of it. Okay, so I have everything selected: waistband, pocket, outside, stitching lines, everything. I'm going to hit Command C to copy it. And now I'm going to hit Command F, which pastes it right on top. So it's the same, it's on the same plane. It's not shifted up or down or anything at all, because I want it to be perfectly even when I attach it from the other side. Okay, so I'm going to right click now. I'm going to go to Transform, and I'm going to go to Reflect. Okay, this will reflect that one that I just made a copy of. Okay, I want to have vertical. Okay, so that's left and right, because I want to flip it to the left. And if you're not sure, just hit preview and you can see. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. There we go. Now I'm going to just use my arrow keys and I'm going to move this to the left. Okay, so you can see it goes very slowly. If you hold down Shift, it goes even quicker. Now I'm going to get in close here, and I'm going to move this closer like so using my arrow keys. That's good. Stop before these points touch and click off of it to deselect. Now I'm going to go to my direct selection tool, and there's a point here and a point here. I'm going to select both those points. You can see they're filled in with blue. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to join. All right, so that just joined this side of my pant to the other side, and it's going to make this all one object. I'm going to go down here. So to create this outline here, or to make this all one object, I had to join up the waist, but also here. So I select both these points with my direct selection tool, right click, join, there we go. Now this is all one object. If I come here and select, see how it moved everything and not just half of it? Okay. And when I say everything, I mean just the silhouette or the outline of it, nothing inside, because that's not attached. Okay. I'm going to hit Command Z, which will undo that. There we are. I'm going to do the same thing here for now to my waistband as well. So I'm going to take my direct selection tool, select that side. I'm going to hold down Shift, select this side, right click, join, and same thing to the stitching. Join. There we go. All right. Now I need to add in a couple more things on a pair of pants. You'll have your crotch seam. So let's put it in our crotch seam. That'd be right at center front. So I'm going to put a point here. And now if you hold down Shift, it will make that line exactly underneath your other point. You don't have to worry about being angled or anything. You'll make it exactly straight. Okay, there it is. I want it to be the same thing, depth as my normal seams. So there we go. I just selected it and hit my drag. So there's my center front seam now. And now let's make this a fly front zipper. So again, I'll take here my pin tool. I'm going to come down straight to about here. And then I want to make a curve like so. I think that looks pretty good. Click, enter. Okay, I like that. I think that looks pretty good. Now, this is not typically a seam. It's a stitching line. So I'm going to select it, use my eyedropper tool, go here, and there we go. Okay. Now, one other thing we can do is we can create our other seam here, our waistband seam. And I'm just going to make this a little askew so it's not exactly on my center front, just so it looks kind of like a little more real. I'll just make it right here. Oops, and that's not what I want. It looks like that. Okay. And there it is. Alright. And if you want, you can put a button in there. If you hold down Shift, it will make a symmetrical object. And there. Alright. And one other thing we can do here is draw like the hole for the button, and that I can just do with like kind of a straight line. Let's just use this. And we can adjust that just a little bit. Go in, shorten it. There we go. Okay, so there is now a pair of jeans. In another video, I'll talk about coloring these in and how you do that when you don't draw it in sections. I really don't like drawing in sections. I think it's hard to line up and hard to make it look good. So when you draw the whole outside of the garment, I think it looks better, much better. So one other thing I'm going to do here is we're going to draw in. So this is a good technical flap, okay, overall. But we could stylize this a little bit, kind of put some wrinkles in it or something. So, and you could do this before you make two sides if you want both sides to look symmetrical. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my direct selection tool, and let's put some like wrinkles around the ankles here. So I'm going to select my line that I want to add it into. I'm going to go here where my smooth tool is and select pencil tool. And while this line is selected, I can come in here, hold down my left button, and I kind of just draw some wrinkles, and and it changes the line to look like that. And I'll do it here a little bit, and then a little bit right here, and a little bit right here. Okay, so now I've added some wrinkles to my pants. I can go up here at the knee and kind of add some more, right around the knees where it might buckle a little bit. I don't like that. I'll try it again. It's fine, and I'll do it right here, and right here, and right here. Okay, and maybe you want to put some up here around the hip too, depending on how tight these are. I'm just going to leave it as is. All right. So now we've added those wrinkles in, but let's add in some let's really make them look like wrinkles, and let's draw in some lines here, kind of coming through like this. Okay, now I don't want to just leave these lines like this. I'm actually going to select them all, and I'm going to make this the thinnest weight, so 2.5. I'm going to come here. This is all under stroke. Notice profile, and right now it says uniform. Okay, I'm going to click this arrow to get a menu, and I have all these options here. Okay, and what these do, they change the way your line looks. Meaning, so if I were to take, I'll draw a line here, and let me just make it thick so you can see. All right, now with that selected, I came here. See how it changes that line, the shape of it? So it has a lot of different ways it can look, okay? It's not just a uniform straight line. So if I come and I select these wrinkle lines I made, and then come here and select one of these, I'm going to do this one. See how it makes them look a little more like wrinkles? And if you don't like the position of these, you can just grab it and kind of adjust where you want it to be. You can copy them, see what keep drawing new ones. Alright, and I'm going to do the same thing up here too. Just kind of draw, I'll use my pencil tool, just kind of draw in, you know, a couple lines here, like so. And then make them as small as possible, and then come here, and then you can just experiment with different ones and see what you like. And that kind of adds in a little bit extra detail into your garment, kind of giving it more of a real look. Okay, and there we've now created our flat of pants. Okay, a couple more things. Let's add in a wrinkle line here at the crotch. I always like to add one in, kind of right through where that area is. Let's see, what do we want to do? Something like that. Like that. Again, let's make that thinner. And just adjust, kind of. Okay. You can put them in here if they're tight or something. You can put them up here. So really you can put these wrinkle lines anywhere. You know, if I wanted, I could come in here and kind of add it in. Draw, you know, wrinkle that, and then kind of put a pole kind of across here, like so. Select these, change their girth, and then, you know, it just kind of adds in a little extra detail. Okay. So there we go, drawing a flat. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to fill this in with multiple colors, even though these aren't all separate objects. I'll show you how to do that.